Okay, are you gonna go or not? There we go. We've got a clock. And we've got that going on. Cool. I believe everything is working properly. Alrighty. Should be all good. And everything's set and cool. All right. Good morning. Unless it's afternoon or evening where you're at, then have a good one of those as well. It is. It has been a lovely weekend here where I live. It's been hot and humid and terrible, leading up to right around Thursday or Friday, mainly Friday, and then all of a sudden, just no humidity almost. I mean, very little for Wisconsin, which still means probably about 30 to 50%. But like, low 80s Fahrenheit, and yeah, it's not rained, and it's just been quite nice. So anyway, there we are. Ooh, I'm gonna pop out the chat thingy so I can see more chat. Pop out chat. All right. So let me see who we got going on here. We've got Sweden. We've got Dallas. We've got Vermont, the Netherlands. Anyone else breaking under the kill team hype? I think a lot of people are doing it. At least if the comments that I've been seeing on the video from Friday are any indication, there's a lot of people who are like, okay, I think you got me finally. I think I'm coming in. So that's cool. What else have we got here? Let me see. We got Brooklyn, Belgium, Norway, Shanghai, the Philippines, Israel, Denmark. I've just started priming some Stormcast from the Soul Wars box. Cool. Connecticut, England, Perth, Poland, New Orleans, Melbourne, Boston, Hertfordshire. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. Got Chicagoland, Southern California, Moscow, San Diego, New York, South Korea, Staten Island. Let me see here. We've got Moderator Matt in the house. How you doing? Germany. Cool. So yeah, I got Appleton, Wisconsin. That's very near where I am. Ireland. Yeah, it's been interesting the way that this whole new kill team stuff's sort of been announced. It just sort of kind of, I mean, we knew it was coming. We just didn't know when, and then all of a sudden they just dropped. Like I said, on Thursday. Like I was home Thursday and Friday because I took off 2 days after 4th of July, which around here is a national holiday. So, yeah, and it was just I woke up on Thursday morning and I was doing stuff and whatever, and then I was like started looking at news such as it is, what I consider to be news on my phone, and saw this information, and I was stunned at how much that they had dropped when they still haven't really technically announced the date. They've announced at the end of that one video, they've announced the pre-order date, which is the 21st of July, but they haven't said necessarily when it's gonna. I'm going to assume it's the next Saturday because they've said that it's going to be in July still. Whereas if they waited 2 weeks, like they did with Soul War, between the beginning of the pre-order till the time it actually shipped, that was a 2 week span. If they did that, then it would end up being in August. So, God, it's almost August. Jeez. I mean, sort of. Let's see. We've got Cali, Argentina, Cedar Rapids, Cancun, Mexico, Virginia. I'll be in Northern Virginia at the end of August, early part of September at the Nova Open. If you guys are going to the Nova Open, definitely stop by and say hi. I'm giving 2 seminars about YouTubery, and always like to see people when I go to conventions. I'm looking forward to the Nova Open. I've never been before, so this will be my first time. Sam will be there too, I believe. 98% sure Sam's going to be there as well. And we just found out, too, both of us, independently, we're both going to be at the Las Vegas Open in February of 2019. So that'll be good. It'll be me and Sam in Vegas. That'll be a thing. Let's see here. Bubble Boy said, did they not say it was coming this month, or did they say it was the pre-orders? They've been saying that it was going to be July 2018, but then in the most recent video they produced about it, at the end of it, it said pre-orders go live July 21st. So if they're still going to get the game out in July, it will probably be a 1-week pre-order. So that's kind of where that seems to be at. Annihilation. Oh, I get it. See. Hi, Adam. You got me back into the hobby after 15 years of hiatus. I've been watching all your videos here in Tokyo. You even inspired me to start a YouTube channel. Well, cool. That's what I'm here for. Oh, Emily. Hi, Emily. Says Sam will be at Nova. I'm signed up for his classes. See, there you go. I was 98% sure he was going to be there as well. So, yeah. So definitely, if you're at Nova, stop by, say hi. Stop by, say hi to Sam. Take some of his classes. Take my seminars if you want to. It'll be a hoot. I've never been to DC before either, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, let's see. Are there any other? We've got some stuff here. Somebody in the chat, VJ actually in the chat, VJ Morph said earlier before it started that he hoped that the Games Workshop sent me a copy of Kill Team, and I that would be great. And I hope to be able to talk about it, if they do, when they say that I can talk about it. That would be awesome. But, that's like nobody's been posting, articles or anything like that yet. So a lot of times these companies, if they send stuff out early, they then have what they call an embargo date. Sometimes it's a sales embargo date. Well, no, that's not true. Usually there's like a sales date, like for video games. Like, your local Target or Walmart will get some PlayStation game like a week before it comes out, so they can set it up and all that stuff, and it's not late, but it will be like a big label in the box that says you can't sell it before this date. Embargoes are usually like, hey, we're sending you this product, or hey, we're sending you this movie ahead of time, but you can't talk about it until a certain time, and that's just some sort of business practice thing. I don't completely understand it, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. So Six Gunner 86 says, hello from Finland. Just started a new job and haven't had so much time to paint, but now I dedicate 2 hours for Escher Gangers and Uncle Adam. Well, great. Those Escher Gangers are cool models. I have to say that the Van Sars at this point now are probably my favorite sculpts of the new Necromunda Gangers. A good friend of mine bought me a box of them kind of as a present, which was very nice of him, and they're really... I just really like them. What I'm going to be doing with them, actually, is I'm going to be building a couple, not the whole group, but I'm going to be building a couple, maybe 3, and using them for Wreckage. There is a group in Wreckage, the post-apocalyptic, post-collapse skirmish game. There's a group that was on the moon, like in a moon base, when everything went to crap, and they've been up there being kind of quiet, and now from time to time they come down to Earth to make sure we're not doing stupid stuff, the survivors. And so their tech is not like post-collapse. Their tech is very high. So, but there's no models yet in the line for the Unicephalon. So I'm going to use those guys because they kind of look like the Van Sar models almost look like they have sort of space suits going on. So I'm going to be kind of doing that. So yeah, definitely. Ad K says, question, tips on black sand bases doing Deepkin from the realm of fire. So you would think the Deepkin would be from the realm of water, but either way. Honestly, if you're going to go like black sand, I would probably use, if you want it to look like sand, I would probably actually use baking soda. I would go back a couple of weeks and watch the video about how I do my baking soda bases. And I would go there and use those. And then what I would probably do is obviously paint once you're going to start painting the base, paint it black. And then I would probably just try to use. I would probably try to do a dry brush with like a gray, like a medium gray, and then I might throw down actually like a brown wash instead of like a black wash. Because the thing is about black is a lot of times if you don't want black to look like it's just straight primer, you want to kind of modify the color a little bit. You don't want it to be just straight, total, and complete black. When I was starting my Black Templars, I did some test models, and what I did was I primed them all black, and then I took a very, very, very dark gray, and I airbrushed them from above, so they sort of had a bit of a highlight. And then the next step after that was dried was I took a brown, like a not sepia, but like an Agrax Earthshade type wash, and then put that over, and it was subtle, but it warmed the black up a little bit. You know, like black cats, if you look at them in bright sunlight, are actually incredibly dark brown, kind of in their undercoat, and it's sort of an optical illusion that they look black to us. It's the same type of thing. Straight, complete black will, in many situations, make someone just look at it and go, "Oh, you just never, you primed it black and then only touched up like the eyes and the guns and like the shoulder pads, and you were done." You know, for that type of thing. So for the sand, I would probably do the same thing. I would probably do like I said, I would do the black, a dry brush of like a medium gray or even a dark gray, and then a wash. And then maybe you could do a little touch up on the dry brushing again if you needed a little bit more contrast. But what I would probably do to actually add contrast to that type of base is actually have stuff on the bases, whether it's little skulls or little rocks or other things that you would find in that type of in that type of region. So yeah, that's kind of my suggestion for making a black sand base like that. That's what I would tell you to do. See, coming for the hot tips. Uncle Adam's pro tips. That's what that is right there. Pat T says, "I can't wait for the new Kill Team." Yeah, no, I know what you mean. The news that's been coming out. Like I was always a big fan of the older Kill Teams, and the fact that now you don't need to have the main 40K book and the Codex or the Codices, depending on how many armies you might want to play, is, I think, spectacular. Like that's what I loved so much about the concept behind Shadow War. When they released it, they're just like, hey, there's this book, you just buy this book and now you can play. And it's limiting, you know. I mean, I'm 98%. I mean, I think they've actually shown. Let's go take a look, shall we? Where do I got to do? Here. Okay, so this is the Kill Team big article that they did back on Thursday. This is where a lot of the information that people have been seeing has been coming from. This is the picture on today's thumbnail, which looks like that. See, there you go. Oops, wrong button. There we go. So, and it's explaining stuff. It's showing a bunch of like the stuff. This is like the terrain that came out during Shadow War. I forget exactly what they call it. Sector Mechanicus, Industrialist, something like that. But yeah, so there's a lot of different things that are going on in there. They're talking about, one of the things that was always cool about Kill Team was the specialists. So they've got a lot of different specialists that now have levels. It used to just be the specialists were like, oh, you've got a specialist who gets a bonus to this or to that. And now, as you're if you're playing in a campaign type mode, you can level up your specialists and give them different things. And you've got almost like a skill tree, like you've got in a lot of different types of video games, which is really cool. The alternating activations thing is making me pretty excited. This new terrain, I think, is really super nice. Anyway, but they did also show, here's the first of their Kill Team focus. So they're going to have a bunch of different Kill Team factions. Oh, they've got Gene Stealer cults. They posted this morning. So there was the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Gene Stealer cults. But they're going to show you the Astartes, the Orcs, the Militarum, the Tyranids, the Drukhari, the Deathwatch, the Harlequins, the Tau, the Necrons, the Heretic Astartes, Death Guard, Grey Knights. Wow, I wonder if this is the entire list. This might be the entire list of everything that's going to be available in the initial book. So they'll be running through on all of them as they go, which they would have to be cranking them out pretty quick. Well, no, it's weeks away. That's true. Anyway, so talking about Adeptus Mechanicus, they got a bunch of pictures, why you should play them, what types of guns they use, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But then they're talking about the units. You've got Rangers, Vanguard, Ruststalkers, and Infiltrators. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that these are probably the only 4 units that you can use in the game, much like in Shadow War. Like, you could play, Space Marines, But then at the time with Shadow War, you could only play scouts, basically. You know what I mean? You couldn't just be like, oh, cool, I'm just going to go get a bunch of Terminators and a bunch of stuff. No, they gave you very specifics that, like, you can only play these guys. So I will bet you that within the Adeptus Mechanicus, you can probably only play the Rangers, the Vanguard, which are basically the same models, and then the Ruststalkers and Infiltrators, which are also the same models. So, and from what I've been reading as well, and these other things, like they gave an example where, like, in a single force, you could have a couple of Primaris Intercessors, you could have some Reavers, and you could have some regular Space Marines. So you can mix and match and do whatever you want within your kill team. I will bet that if you bought a box of Rangers/Vanguard, you could have some Rangers and some Vanguard, because you could build them either way. And same with the Ruststalkers and the Infiltrators. Probably the same type of deal. So it sounds like, from what we can tell, there's going to be specific models in the... So you can't take, like, the Dune Crawler, you can't take, like, the Castellan robots, you can't take, like, all the cool stuff from the line necessarily, but the game is designed to be a kind of narrow slice and a little bit more skirmishy. It would be unfair if I showed up with, like, 6 guys and you showed up with, like, you know, the Dune Crawler with the giant guns and the big giant spidery legs and all that junk. That would be, it might be kind of funny, but it probably wouldn't be real cool. So let's take a look at the Genestealer cults, which I think was just posted. It wasn't posted when I went to bed last night, I don't think. So yeah, here's why you would want to play the Genestealer cults, because they're sneaky and that kind of stuff. So we've got Neophyte hybrids, we've got Acolyte hybrids, we've got hybrid Metamorphs. Huh, that looks like a newish model to me. And then Aberrants, and then regular Genestealers. Interesting. Huh. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know a ton about the Genestealer cults. I know that the hybrids and the both Neophyte hybrids and Acolyte hybrids, I'm 98% sure that they already have their own model line. Those Metamorphs look new to me, and the Aberrants definitely do. Genestealers have been around forever, so Genestealers are Genestealers. But those Aberrants and those Metamorphs, I don't know that they've been out before. I could be wrong. Let me know in the chat, which I can't currently see. But let me know in the chat if those are new. VJ Morph says that the Metamorph model is new. It'll be interesting. Maybe the Metamorphs and the Aberrants are in the same kit, kind of like some of the other ones. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. That's interesting. I had not, like I said, this page is new to me. I'm just seeing it for the first time now. But yeah, so I would say that probably if we go back through this list here, your Astartes, your Orcs, like they've already said basically that it'll be, at the very least they've said that, I think that they've said Primaris Intercessors, which are the normal Primaris Marines. The Reavers, Tactical Marines, and Scouts, I think, are the 4 that they said, because in an example, they're like, you could mix all those together into one, you know, kill team if you wanted to. So we know at least probably that those 4 are available. There may be a 5th or a 6th for the Space Marines being, to some degree, poster children for the whole 40K thing. They may give them some extra dudes to, you know, have in their group. We will see. Orcs, I mean, there's a ton of different types of orcs. They'll probably have, I don't know, at least 4, maybe 5, 6, 7 different types of orcs you can choose from. Astra Militarum, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that they're, because you've got your normal dudes. I suppose there's the Scions, the Tempestus Scions guys that they could put in there. Otherwise, it's like everything else is kind of more vehicle based, so I don't know about that. Tyranids, you've got tons of different people to choose from. Drukhari, I don't really know much about. Deathwatch, there's pretty much just Deathwatch, so I don't know that you're going to have a lot of choice there. Harlequins, Space Clowns, I don't know a lot about Space Clowns. Tau Empire, there's a decent amount of stuff to choose from. I'm going to assume it's probably going to be like, I don't know, probably Fire Warriors, Pathfinders. I hope there's not any battle suits. That seems like it would be kind of unfair, but I don't know. Necrons I'm definitely interested in, because I built a Necron force for the last version of Kill Team, which back then I built, I think it was like 10 regular warriors, built it and painted them, and then it was 3 of the Tomb, basically they're jet bikes. I can't remember what they're called now. Tomb Cruisers? No, that's not right. They should not make a model called Tomb Cruisers. That's a terrible idea. But the Necrons, so hopefully I'm assuming Warriors will be in there because there's a picture of the Warriors there. It'll probably be something like Warriors and maybe like I don't know, probably it could be maybe the boss is like a Cryptek, like the leader guy maybe is a Cryptek. Maybe they'll give you access to that. I'm assuming the Immortals because they're a regular troops choice. I'm not sure what else. Heretic Astartes, which is AKA Chaos Space Marines. I'm looking forward to that because I've got a bunch of them already painted and ready to go, so I could just easily, hopefully, just slap a bunch of them together. I'm hoping that the cultists are part of that. The Asurani, which I guess is Eldar. I don't know why they just decided to say not use Eldar anymore. Death Guard, I've got a bunch of them ready to go, or at least partially built. Some are painted, but they're like the older Plague Marines, and I might want to switch to the new, bigger kind of, Death Guard type Plague Marines. So I'm looking at definitely like once I can find out what the stats are and what I can do for an actual kill team, I want to make a Death Guard one. And Grey Knights, I've got a box of Grey Knights I've had in the basement. It's just 5 dudes, and I've had them down there for I don't know how long. And so hopefully I can build them and make them into a kill team. I was originally going to make them a force for Shadow Armageddon, but now I'm looking at doing this. Thousand Suns, I mean, I got to tell you, the new Thousand Suns models are really cool, and this is the whole thing about kill team is it makes you look at it and you go, well, if I could just build 5, you know what I mean? That's fun. That's not a big deal. It's just 5. Well, yeah, but you build 5 for Thousand Suns and 5 for Grey Knights and 5 for Death Guard and 5 for, well, not the Eldar, but what I'm saying. You go through and all of a sudden you've got a lot of models and you're still buying a bunch of stuff, and that's kind of the trick. Yeah, let's see here. Pre-order some Blood Bowl. Oh, yeah. Okay, where were we? Here. So, yeah. If you haven't gotten a chance yet to read this article, which came out on the 5th of July, definitely go through and take a look at it. It's got a lot of cool images. They're explaining a lot of stuff. I tried to talk about a lot of this stuff in the video I did on Friday. I'm very excited about the alternating activations. I'm excited even about the board. It's a very small board space. It's 22 by 30. And like I said in the video on Friday, I think it really has to do with the fact that you can, that will fit on a normal 6-foot, what we call around here, conference table, which most game stores have plenty of those because that's what Magic is generally played on. But the thing that's interesting is if you think about it, you can't play X-Wing on a 3-foot, or I'm sorry, you can't play X-Wing on a 6-foot conference table because it's 6 feet long, but then it's only 30 inches across. So a normal X-Wing game is 36 by 36 inches. It's a 3-foot square. Well, this is 22 by 30, so you can fit this onto a normal conference table because it's small enough. So I think that's going to be very interesting. I think that they're definitely, obviously they're definitely looking towards X-Wing. Shadespire can also be played in a very small space, so that's been very good. Shadespire's been incredibly popular. It'll be very interesting to see the next big event that I go to. I want to see what the Shadespire tournament looks like at Nova. I'm really interested in checking that out. And I believe someone said in the comments recently already that Nova's already announced that they're going to be doing Kill Team organized play, some sort of tournament thing as well. So that'll be very interesting to see as well. It'll be interesting to see how they whip up this much terrain, because it's the thing about this game is that, yes, it's played on a very small board, but you need a decent amount of terrain to make it work. And again, I think that you can play it on a bigger board if you wanted to. I wouldn't go 4x6 probably, especially when you only got 5 or 6 guys maybe in your entire thing, maybe 10. But, like a 3x3, I don't see why you wouldn't. What'll be very interesting is if you start to see companies like Frontline Gaming that make the really nice printed mats and stuff like that. If you start seeing them producing a bunch of mats at 22 by 30, excuse me, I think you will. I think they'd be silly not to. And I also it seems like here now they've added in also command points, which command points first showed up in 8th edition 40K. For the most part, and then command points have now showed up in the new version of Age of Sigmar, and now you're seeing command points here in Kill Team. So that's very cool as well. All right, I think that's maybe I'm going to go check the chat and see how things are going there. GC&T says yes, they're trying to hit it off like X-Wing. No, I totally agree. I think they're really looking at that. What else? Smaller game idea is very smart. Is actually so smart. I agree as well. Melanie Dawn asks, do you think announcing kill teams so soon after Soul Wars will steal some of Soul Wars' thunder? I was at my local Warhammer yesterday, and that's all anyone was still talking about. I mean, I think they're focusing on. I think they're looking at it from the aspect of like there are plenty of people who only want to play one. There are also a decent amount of people who want to play both. There are people who are interested in both 40k and Age of Sigmar, sci-fi and fantasy. But I think that there's also plenty of people who are very interested in just like, I only like to play fantasy or I only like to play sci-fi. So the reason that they're doing this to some degree is that I think that, I don't know, for some reason summer seems to be the time that they focus a big portion of their sales on. Like Age of Sigmar came out in summer, 8th edition 40k came out in summer, everything. Like for years, 40k, the new edition always came out like in July or June. And so there's a reason probably that they're doing that. And I have to assume it's either based off of the fact that they know that sales get better at that time, which you would think that they would want to go closer to Christmas, but they do other stuff usually closer to Christmas, like those big mega sales or those big mega forces and stuff. But the new releases are always in like the summer, and I don't know if it has to do with manufacturing cycles or something, but it seems to be what they're doing. But I can understand, yeah, there's a lot of people who are saying, well, I just bought this and now this other thing's coming out and it's a lot of money, and I agree. I think that one of the big benefits from what they've said so far, things that I've seen them write in answers on their Facebook page, is they're saying that this big box set that Kill Team is going to come out in with all the terrain and all that stuff is not going to be limited edition like Shadow War was. Shadow War was kind of unintentionally limited edition in that they didn't think it was going to sell as well as it did, and then they ran out. And then they just were like, well, we're not going to make any more of that. So then they just started selling the book and they started selling the terrain separately. But the price was not nearly as good of a deal. One of the reasons I think that the Shadow War main box was so popular was because the price when you added up all the components was way better than if you had to buy them separately. So there's that. With Kill Team, they have said in one of the Facebook comments that they responded to, I saw sometime on Thursday or Friday, they said straight up, this is a permanent product. We are going to keep producing this box. So if you wanted to wait 2 months, 3 months, a year, or whatever, it sounds like you'll still be able to get it, So it's not one of those things where you have to leap on Kill Team right now, otherwise you're going to miss it. It sounds like you've got some time. So yeah. What else have we got here? Matthew Perez says, great way to intro people into the game. Was at my local GW store, and the mixed crowd still wants Soul Wars, Soul Wars and Kill Team. Yeah, I mean, you've got people who who straight up collect everything that Games Workshop puts out, and I'm not that guy. I buy a good amount of their stuff. I like a lot of their product, but I don't buy all of it because, I mean, well, they just do a lot of stuff that I'm just not interested in. So yeah. Pitt's Pilot Gaming says their fiscal year begins in the summer and then they can start strong with a big release. They are publicly traded. Yeah, I honestly, I felt it was something probably either manufacturing related or business fiscally, financially related, and that does make a lot of sense. So there's a very big reason for that. And other people are also saying June is the beginning of the fiscal year for GW, so that does totally make sense. Luddite70 says, I'm hoping that they get some good stable rules together and it looks good that it appears self-contained. I mean, it's interesting from the way they've been explaining is like, yeah, it's self-contained, like you can buy the box, but you could also just buy the book. And if you've already got a bunch of 40k models, you can probably build kill teams from those models you already have. And you've probably got a bunch of terrain. It sounds like they're going to be even selling like the different like zones, what they're calling the combat zones or whatever they're calling them. You can buy those separately eventually too. So you could, if you wanted to, you could just buy the board, which will come with a little bit of terrain, and then you could buy the book and then use models you've already got and extra terrain you've already got and play. Or you could say, well, I want to play on a 3x3 because I've got a board for that, like a neoprene mat or something, and I've got terrain and I've got models, so I'll just buy the book. Or you can say, look, I have some stuff, but I want all this stuff, and then you could buy the entire box. Or you could be starting from scratch and then say, I'm cool with having Adeptus Mechanicus and Genestealer cults fighting against each other. I'll buy this box. I'll get this cool terrain. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options, and I think that that's a smart thing from their standpoint to make as many options as possible. So, Diego Flores says, I live in a country where 40K is really expensive, so Kill Team is the best gateway we have to help promote the hobby here, and my local community doesn't play Age of Sigmar, not enough allure. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense because, not that there's anything wrong with regular 40K, there's a lot of people obviously that still enjoy playing it, but I think it's a smart concept. Like a lot of people said at the time, well, okay, Age of Sigmar is the new kind of gateway into Games Workshop, and then you play Age of Sigmar for a while, and then if you want to do more stuff, then you switch over to 40K. And some people that's true, but there's also some people that are like, well, this game kind of requires a decent amount of models, Age of Sigmar, and then if I want to get into the sci-fi stuff because I like sci-fi, well then I got to go even way bigger. So the concept of making the sci-fi version of the game that can use so few models, it just makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I would bet, I mean, I don't know, Shadow War had limits where I think you had to have a minimum of 3 models and a maximum of 10, but there were a couple of armies that could go over that maximum. I think Genestealer cults could go up to 15, and I think orcs could go up to 20, if I'm remembering my Shadow War correctly. They may have rules like that again in Kill Team, we'll see. But yeah, so we'll see how that kind of goes. Fun Guy says, what do you think about deleting vehicles from Kill Team? I'm not sure what you mean by deleting vehicles. I mean, I'm 95% sure there probably won't be any vehicles in the game. No jet bikes, no rhinos or anything like that. And again, that's just partially because the board's going to be pretty small. It's going to be designed to be a small-scale skirmish game. Very few small-scale skirmish games have vehicles. You look at one of the most popular ones is probably Malifaux, and there's no vehicles in Malifaux. It's all people. You look at something like Mercs, which is also small-scale skirmish. That's 5 models. There's no points in that game. You basically can take 5 models, and that's the way that it works. You can't take 4, you can't take 6, you take 5. So, and again, no vehicles. So yeah, small-scale skirmish games. Small-scale skirmish. The fact that I'm saying that properly is astounding to me since it's 9:30 in the morning. But those types of games generally don't have vehicles. But if you want to get into vehicles, well, that's what you get into 40K for. And again, the idea is that, so maybe you've never played 40K at all before. You get into this and you start using those cool Genestealer cultists, and you start doing that. And then you're like, well, this is really cool. And then you start buying more Genestealer cultists, and then you buy those crazy trucks that they have. And then eventually you've got a 40K army, with maybe 1,500 points. And then you start playing at your local shop with friends, and it's all, designed to kind of get you into the hobby as well, definitely. Big Uncle says, I got the last Kill Team box still unopened on the shelf, LOL. Well, you could probably use the Tau Fire Warriors if you want to make yourself a cool new Kill Team set. It also came with Space Marines, and it sounds like you can probably use normal Tactical Marines in there if you want to, so that's cool. That's one of the downsides to Shadow War, was I was kind of bummed that you could only use Scouts. So it sounds like they've decided to kind of fix that with this version, which is cool too. Homuffin says, Shadespire looked kind of cool too, but none of the factions right now look interesting to me. Lizardmen or Caradon Overlords when? Yeah, no, I like a lot of the factions that are in there, but I am really itching for some Lizardmen. Maybe not the Caradons as much for me, although of the dwarves, if I was going to go dwarves, they are probably the dwarves I would go with, just because they've got those cool flying boats. Those are pretty cool. Yeah, I like them way better than Fire Slayers or regular dwarves. But Lizardmen, I really want there to be a Lizardmen Shadespire. Well, it probably won't be Shadespire. It will probably be, because it's technically, I talked about this a while back, it's technically Shadespire. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this thing over here. It's technically Shadespire, or it's called Warhammer Underworld's Shadespire. And it's sounding like they're done with the Shadespire setting, and they're going to be moving to Warhammer Underworld's some other city in the realms, the Mortal Realms or whatever. So, and then that will allow them to bring in elves and lizardmen and other people and stuff like that. And the boards will be different, but just different artwork, hopefully. It should hopefully all be compatible. I think it would be a terrible idea if the new version of Warhammer Underworlds was not compatible with the Shadespire version. Like they should be able to fight each other, but we'll see. But it sounds as if there's a new one coming along. And like I said, I really do hope for Lizardmen because I want to really paint like 5 or 6 Lizardmen. I think that'd be a hoot. Randall says that Malifaux has carts, sort of a vehicle. Maybe I haven't seen any carts, but I know there's large pigs. They're kind of like a vehicle. Let me see here. What else have we got? Home Muffin says I'd probably paint my custards in Superman colors. I think you mean custardes or something like that. Custodes instead of custards. I'm not sure what custards are. Frankie Lee Bailey says, Lizardman, I thought you wanted wet elves. No, I do not want wet elves for Shadespire or whatever it's called. I'm assuming they'll make some. I mean, I wouldn't. They've sold very well, so I'm assuming they will make some. But Lizardmen are really where I want to go. Bob McLeish says, the Shadespire rules team are involved in Kill Team. Yeah, I'd read that too. I think that's probably also a smart move. I'm not seeing anything so far from the news that they've produced about Kill Team that makes me think that it is like a deck building type game like Shadespire is. I don't feel it looks like that at all. Like they've talked about how, like, I think in the main box there are little cards for each of your people in the game, but it's not like they're like powers or or ploys or upgrades or anything like that. They're just basically like, this is a place where you can keep your stats. And so if you just want to do it on a regular piece of paper, you could do that too. Big Uncle says Warhammer Underworld's Tomb Cruisers. Yeah, Tomb Cruisers. I think that's a game. That should be one of their new boxed games, kind of like the Gangs of Gomorrah or whatever, all that kind of stuff. Necron Tomb Cruisers. Just be a bunch of Necrons wearing sunglasses. Melanie Dawn says Warhammer Underworld's Glim's Forge, or whatever that book in Soul Wars was called. If they related it in some fashion to Soul Wars, I would not be surprised. At that point, then, I bet that they would either release a new like $60 box, which would be compatible with regular Shadespire, but would have the new boards. It would have 2 new forces, which would probably be Night Haunts and potentially also the Sacrosanct dudes, or it might be somebody else, but it would probably Night Haunts. Maybe Night Haunts and Lizardmen. That would be awesome. I would buy that instantly. Yes, so that kind of thing. I would definitely see that. But we'll see. I don't know where yet. And they have not said a word about like what they're planning on the new one. I don't know if they maybe wait until... Well, they could announce it during Gen Con. That could be their play. I could see that. What else have we got? Kill Team seems fun, but sadly Tau are nigh implayable in 8th edition with the ridiculous point increase. Well, I mean, the trick is that the rules for Kill Team are not 8th edition 40k rules. So if you wanted to play some Tau in Kill Team, I'm betting that I'm 98% sure it's not the same point system. And I think that I would bet that a lot of the stats are probably kind of close, but they're probably not identical to 40k because they've said this is not 8th edition 40k. But then they also recently said, well, if you've played 8th edition 40k, this will be familiar. So it's not like as weird of a left turn as Shadow War was. Shadow War was, to a person who was trying to play like 7th or 8th edition 40k, when you looked at Shadow War, you were like, well, this is very different because it was based off of the old Necromunda, which was based off of the old 2nd edition 40k back in the mid-90s. So, yeah, I think that I would not write off the Tau probably just because they're not doing it as well as you'd like in 8th edition as far as Kill Team is concerned. Atlas Bushcraft says, which is a great name, says some Shadespire terrain would be killer. I've been seeing a lot of 3D printed Shadespire terrain because in the Shadespire, it's all hex based, but you'll have these spots that are like impassable terrain, and they'll just be like kind of darkened out, and you can't go through there at all. So people have been making for those specific shapes. There's a 1 hex one, a 2 hex one, and I think a 3 hex one, or something like that. People have been designing 3D printed, crushed pillars or big mounds of skulls or whatever. So if you look on like Etsy and places like that and eBay, I bet you'll find some. Or if you already own your own 3D printer, go into places like Thingiverse and such, and you'll probably be able to download and print your own cool terrain. I'm a little surprised, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised that GW hasn't jumped on that to kind of make some cool 3D terrain just for people who want it, but maybe they're looking at it and going, well, people are 3D printing it, and so we don't have to really worry about it. The trick is if you're going to travel with that game, and Shadespire's a very easy to take around game. As soon as you start adding terrain to it, now it's much more difficult to travel with. So I could see that from their mindset too. They're like, we don't want to do that. But if people want to 3D print stuff and stick it on there, that's cool. We don't have a problem with it. So yeah. Let me see here. Michael Strange says, bizarre weather in July. 71 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Too humid to prime models. So Tabletop Minions, every other Sunday show it is. Well, we're glad to have you. Here it is super not humid, which is lovely. I'm hoping to actually do some priming some afternoon. I've got some terrain I'm working on, and I want to get some stuff primed. A lot of times with terrain, I prefer, if I can, just to use rattle can outside. I mean, I'll use airbrush if I have to, but priming regular models, 28mm models, is way easier with airbrush than it is with rattle can. But priming terrain with rattle can I find actually to be a little easier just because it's a much bigger spray area. It's a much bigger thing. If you're trying to take, your airbrush sometimes to do bigger pieces of terrain, it can be sometimes troublesome. I will still do it if it's like winter or raining or whatever. But if it's a nice day and I've got terrain built and I got time, I would like to go out and usually prime it. Paul Noxie says, I'm happy I can use Gene Stealer cults in Necromunda and now Kill Team. Oh, I didn't know you could use them in Necromunda. I mean, it makes sense. Totally makes sense, but that's cool. Must have been in one of the new Gang War books. Makes sense. But yeah, Gene Stealer cults are cool models. I've never built any, and so I'm interested. I was going to build some actually for Shadow War and kicked around the idea and then never quite got to that point because I was working on other groups. And so, yeah, that's the fact that it looks like that we can go into there. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Annihilation says, would you be interested in a skyscraper-like terrain feature, which is the whole kill team's board, so to speak, clearing floor by floor? Me personally, I don't know. I think they look super cool. The problem is that they can be a real pain to try to game in. When I used to watch games of Necromunda when I was a wee lad, well, not that wee, it was 1995, so I was out of high school. But when I was younger, and I would go to Gen Con and I would watch the people play the Necromunda. I would spend a lot of time there watching them play Necromunda because I didn't have any of the stuff or the models or anything like that. And they were playing with the old school Necromunda terrain, which was plastic bulkheads with a lot of cardboard, like walkways and catwalks and all that jazz. And they would build these very densely packed, very high and tall. Like they would put a bunch of kits together and make these humongous, kind of almost like oil rig type sort of situations that looked really super cool. But it was a giant pain for those guys sometimes to try to like move those models around in that situation. They were always using laser pointers and dental mirrors. Like that little tiny round mirror it's on a stick that you put in your mouth to see if you've got scabies or whatever. They would use those and then bounce the laser off of the mirror, behind their guy to see if they could hit this other person through like, all the bulkheads and stuff like that. And they would use like, they're like chopsticks, but they've got like, there's like a hinge at the back. So they're not just two sticks that you have to know how to use. They're a lot just more pinchy, and they've got a hinge in the back. And then use that to reach in and grab a guy and move him over here and that kind of stuff. Because they were working like within this structure, which was, like the size of like a big, like, I don't know, like a waste paper basket, but it was all made out of this stuff and it was really cool. But it was very difficult to play within. And so trying to play the game, though it would be super interesting to try to play like in a skyscraper type structure, kind of redoing something like the Raid, that movie, or the Raid 2 or Dread, something like that would be super amazing, but I think it would be very difficult to actually physically play. That's one of those places where sometimes a video game can come in a little bit better because it's a little bit easier. You don't have to find, laser pointers and dental mirrors and junk like that. Michael Strange says, so looking forward to Kill Team. I've been slack getting armies together for 40k battles. No one wants to play with either, so I'm recruiting my kids. Skirmish is more to their liking. I think a lot of people are really kind of getting more into skirmish. Obviously, you're seeing it within other companies. You're seeing it within companies like Weird, who makes Malifaux. You're seeing it in, Wild West Exodus. You're seeing it in, oh gosh, just a lot. Well, Wreck Age. You're seeing it in definitely more than just those three. But you are also starting. Oh well, I guess technically, really, sort of like Warlords games like Bolt Action and Conflict 47 are kind of skirmish. They're not a small skirmish. They're like usually there's like a vehicle and then maybe like 20 or 30 guys, which is at this point actually becoming a little bit more like an army type game, because at least if you're looking at it from the realm of regular 40k, because like I said, I've got a 2,000 point list of Space Marines built for 8th edition 40k. They're built and their shoulder pads are all textured and they've got the icons on them and all that stuff, and their bases are all textured and they're ready for priming. But it's like 30 models for an entire 2,000 point list. Now, admittedly, like one of them is a humongous repulsor tank and there's a couple of dreadnoughts in there and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily these days. If you're playing Guard or if you're playing Tyranids or Orcs, then you still got a whole bunch of models in comparison. But some people used to refer to like Bolt Action as large scale skirmish, in that it was, you were pretty much stuck at around maybe 30 models, but you were never taking 50 or 100 or whatever like that. But now skirmish people in general are generally like, yeah, you're looking at, 6, 10, maybe 12 models tops, generally. You could have scabies in your mouth. I don't know. I'm no mouth doctor. It is gross, though. I agree. Let's see here. What else? Hey, Adam, did you watch the new Miniac on non-metal metallics? He is wearing a Pachow t-shirt. Even Pachow is at one point in the video links. I saw the thumbnail go by. I haven't watched the video. I'll have to go back and check it out. I did not realize that he was wearing a Pachow t-shirt. That's fun. But yeah, I did see like the thumbnail. It was like the thumbnail was like a knight, some sort of guy like in plate armor, but kind of had like a big gut. It was like a big kind of a fat knight almost, and it was all very nicely painted, non-metallic metal. And then Scott Miniac, his head was like superimposed over the top of the thing. I did see that. But yeah, I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. Scott's a good guy. He does good work. I myself personally I think part of the reason I didn't watch it yet is because I'm not interested in non-metallic metals. I am fine with normal metallic metals, or what they call true metallic metals, which means you use metallic paints. I know that amongst people who are really into like competitive painting, really high-end painting, non-metallic metals is really super. I mean, it's up there. You really have to know your stuff. But because I'm generally painting for tabletop, I've never really wanted to go down that road. But I'll definitely have to give it a look. When was the last time? I mean, he and I have talked from time to time on Facebook and stuff, but I want to say last time I saw him was probably at Adepticon. We chatted a couple of times, and then I think I sat behind him and some friends at the Crystal Brush announcement or whatever, like the awards ceremony. I'm pretty sure I sat behind him there. So yeah, he's a good guy. Let me see here. Emmett says that Kill Team is going to be great. I have the basis for about 4 teams already, and I'm going to start Thousand Suns and Gene Stealer Cult. Yeah, Thousand Sun models are cool. I like the really new ones quite a bit. I can understand that, and I'm sure that's a big portion of the point, is to get you to be like, oh, I've always wanted to do Thousand Suns, but I never want to start an army. Well, now I can build 5 or 6 or something like that and go to town that way. That's one of the big benefits, I think, too, of like some of those press fit. There's Primaris Intercessors. You can buy like a set of like 3 of them, in like blue plastic for, I don't know, like $15. There's also a set of Reavers, I think. And you don't get lots of cool options. You can't tweak them too much, but you can put them together for pretty cheap. And they go together real easy. And I think there's also Death Guard. Pretty sure there's Death Guard as well. And they come like in green plastic. So you could use those. Yeah. Let me see here. Voice of Reason. When looking at the Kill Team box contents, my only gripe is the scenery is small squads will likely be 40 to 50 euros a piece because of the 40k scenery. I don't know what they haven't announced. I don't think they've announced any kind of prices or anything. Well, I don't think they've announced prices for anything yet. They don't. I know they will be selling the scenery separately, which is cool because I don't know. I could see myself buying another box or so of the scenery just because it's really nice looking. It's a very different, just from what I can see. It doesn't, let's go back and look at it real quick here. Click. Because the thing that I'm noticing, like, I don't see it completely covered in skulls. You know what I mean? Like, there's a big double eagle head door there, I think, and maybe those are little rows of skulls next to it. So I guess there's some skulls, but it's not skulls on top of skulls like the other one, the old stuff is. Oh, wait. Oh, that might be skulls up at the top part up there, above that archway. Those could be skulls. Yeah. I kind of like the paint job, too. I really sort of like this sort of kind of bleached bone sort of look. I don't know, like it's not just the normal gray that some of the other older stuff is. It's this kind of, it's very interesting. It'd be really interesting to see like if they crank out a whole bunch of really cool terrain with, in this same line. I like this stuff here, these things are really cool. Oh, it's cool. They put those cool plant things on there. But like all this sector industrial land, I don't know what it's called. Oh, you can see in the background there's one of those, it's like a big plasma generator thing. I've got some of those. They're primed and in the basement ready to be painted. They're cool too. Yeah, I don't know. The terrain stuff to me I think is going to be very interesting, and I'm interested to see like what kind of extra stuff they will create. But they're showing like, yeah, here's the main book. You'll be able to buy the book. We're going to sell kill zones separately. Like here's Sector Mechanicus. That's what that stuff is called. So Sector Mechanicus, you'll get probably a board and then a bunch of plastic terrain. Hence, like this, you'll get some pieces, like you get a piece here, you get some pipey bits, and then you get a board that looks like that. And that would be, and then it looks like there's also going to be an 8-page booklet with lore, art, and photography, some special tactics cards that allow your kill teams to turn the environment around them to their advantage, so that's kind of cool. So there's a little, I don't want to say there's deck building, but it looks like there's going to be special tactics cards that are attached to the actual realm or whatever, the place that you're playing, which is kind of an interesting thing. Because as it is right now, like this type of terrain, you can't see me pointing, but this type of terrain already has special rules in the data slates or data sheets or whatever they call it. So it's kind of like the pipes have the ability that if you hide behind them and you take fire, it can cause problems and stuff like that or whatever. But yeah, that's cool. And then they're showing here they're going to have some starter sets. So you've got what looks like some Reavers, but they're done up like Space Wolves. You got some Orcs over here. And then these will come with like, here's a force and here's some pieces of extra terrain and some stuff. But you don't have to use these. But if you want to, it's almost like a start collecting set, but with like a little bit more of just a kill team bent, which I think is very smart. And then here's your, it looks like they're Reavers, maybe all Reavers, or maybe they're Reavers and some Primaris. And then you got some of that cool terrain stuff and all that junk, and extra cards. Oh wow. So yeah, it looks like they're going to be cranking out a whole bunch of this stuff. Ruins, Administratum, Basilicanum, Sanctum. Some of these remind me a lot of the old terrain. So maybe I don't know if they're discontinuing the old terrain and this is the new stuff or whatever. Those statues are pretty hot though. I want those. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think it's going to be, I definitely like to check out, like that one's got the skull head and that one's got the regular guy. Those are pretty sweet. Yeah. And this, I'm just a sucker for this dumb junk. Like, look at this. You got this cool little, like, kind of, looks like it's a squishy but not too soft carrying case that you can put your kill team in or whatever, and then fancy dice. I probably won't buy the fancy dice. Yeah, so again, here's the list of all the different, currently, your Astartes, your Death Watch, your Grey Knights, all that stuff. One thing we're not seeing here, two things we're not seeing here in this list of stuff is, one is Inquisition. So we're not seeing any Inquisition so far. And we're not seeing any Sisters of Battle. I will bet you a moldy donut that when the Sisters of Battle plastic kits are released, there will probably be a kill team starter box thing like one of these for Sisters, and it will have X amount of plastic Sisters, and there will be some pieces of terrain and some cards and junk like that. I will bet you that will happen when that comes out. As far as the Inquisition, that I don't know. I'm kind of surprised because there was Inquisition in Shadow War, so I don't know why there's not one here. But they've also said that the new Rogue Trader stuff that's going to come out at the end of the year is actually, a lot of people were thinking, I thought it was going to be another skirmish game, but now they're saying no, it's just an add-on for Kill Team, and it will come with 2 forces in that box and probably some terrain and a realm board or whatever and all that junk. But those models are completely different than anything we've seen before, in my opinion. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. At least I think so, and you may as well. I gotta bring back the chat thingy. There we go. Okay, so yeah, Alexander Marquez says those statues are so cool. I agree, they are super cool. And I have 2 of the original statue guys from the Exalted whatever kit that they built years ago, and so I have 2 of those. If you ever go back and watch an old video of mine, which, you know what, when I go back and I watch the old videos, the sound is so much worse than it is now, and like everything, it's just ugh. But anyway, if you go back and watch the old one about how to paint a bronze statue, that I've got 2 of those now, and they're great pieces. But I'm looking forward to getting some of those other ones too. Those things are super cool. BJ Morph says the Inquisition stuff is in Rogue Trader. See, I kind of assumed that well, I mean, that could be true, but it also, I would just almost assume that the Rogue Trader stuff would be the Rogue Trader crew versus the attackers, which look slightly nurgly, but they're hard to say, really. I just assumed it was like Rogue Trader crew versus, but you could be right. They could be Inquisition who are on a Rogue Trader, because Lord knows the Inquisition does like to make Rogue Traders drive them around, schlep them around the galaxy. So that could make sense. But yeah, that would probably kind of make sense. Let's see here. Kelly says that moldy donuts give you mouth scabies. Well, that's probably not wrong. Do we already know if there's a starter box for each faction? I don't think so. Well, we don't know that. I don't know. Let me take a look real quick here, because they're talking about starter boxes. Kill Team starter sets are the perfect way to get stuck in with a new Kill Team, each featuring specially selected models, new rules, custom tokens, terrain, blah, 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 all at a lower price than picking up the contents separately. So that's, again, kind of like the start collecting boxes. Each can be used as a pre-made Kill Team in its own right, or as a starting point for one of your own making, featuring unique faction tactics cards you won't find anywhere else. Well, that's okay. So one of the reasons you might want to buy the starter box is to get, so there's a little bit of deck building, but not in the way it is with Shadespire. It's more just like you get special tactics because you bought the special box. That's interesting. Yeah, so the only ones they're showing here currently are the Fangs of Ulfric, which is, like I said, Space Wolves, and then the Krog Skulls Boys. Anyway, I don't know if they will make them for each or not. I just realized you guys didn't see any of that, but that's okay. Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to make one for each different unit, or not. We'll see. There we go. I would think it would be expensive to crank out a ton of them, but they may bring out 2 or 3. Like, maybe they'll bring out 2 a month for a while, or 1 a month for a while, until they have a whole bunch of them. I can tell you right now that I think a lot of stores, like non-GW stores, would probably start to get tired of that much wall space being taken up by those things. I mean, as it is right now, The Start Collecting boxes are great sellers at stores that I've talked to, but if you get all of them, they do take up an astounding amount of space. I mean, Games Workshop in general, if you're a store that's all in on Games Workshop, they take up an astounding amount of space for one manufacturer. When you go and look at a store that sells lots of board games can take up lots of space, but that's from hundreds of different manufacturers potentially. Whereas if you go pretty deep into Games Workshop, you better have a lot of shelves. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. Diego Flores says, I have a feel that Kill Team is Shadespire for 40k because of the specific cards and starter boxes and terrain, at the same time keeping in line with the idea of old Kill Team. I think that they are giving you the option to play it either direction. If you want to buy the starter boxes and get the fancy cards, you can do that if you want to be competitive or if you just want to be like a big winner or whatever. But if you just want to take the guys you've already got maybe, or the guys you've always wanted to buy but never had the reason to pull a trigger on, you can do that, put them together, and play with the normal like tactics or whatever that are they show in the book. See, that's the thing. The tactic cards are nice because you've got them there, but just like in regular 40k, if you want to buy the deck of cards that they sell with all the tactics for your army, let's say it's Astra Militarum, you can do that, or you could just look in the book in the codex and go, well, that's the tactic I want to use. The cards are there just because they're sort of easy to manipulate and keep in front of you. I have done that back in 6th or 7th edition when they came up with chapter tactics. I made my own little cards for chapter tactics because I'm a specific kind of dork. And so I put together, like, I made my little Ultramarines tactic cards, and then I laminated them because I'm that kind of person who owns a laminator. And then it was just helpful to have them in front of me. But if you can just buy them, some people are totally cool to do that. It's up to you, but the fact that they're making those cards in those starter boxes specific to those starter boxes is interesting. But that's how they're gonna. That's another way that they're trying to make money. So you get the choice. You don't have to buy them, but you can go like that. So I don't think it's not a requirement. Again, like if you were going to go to tournaments and you want to be all in on trying to become a winner, well then you may need to go that direction. But if you just want to play and have fun with your friends, it doesn't sound like you need to go that direction. And I think that that's kind of nice that they give you both options. I mean, I'm still playing with all the base decks for my Shadespire. I have not gone through and decided to do any deck design or deck building or anything like that for my Shadespire. I just like to, that's the deck for these guys? Cool. And I just play with it. Yeah. Let me see. Adam, how is your app going? Do you know, are there a good number of people on it for tabletop RPGs? I run an open gaming night in Philly at a number of bars and was wondering if getting it is for me. App's going well. We're at about 18,000 people registered in the app, and we've got about 800 groups. Our store finder, and the app I'm talking about, it's called Game4. I will type a thing, if I can, into the chat, just in case you want to go and check it out. www.iamgame4.com. There you go. So yeah, the app is going pretty well, and we have added, if you're going to be having gaming nights, like board gaming or RPG nights at some bars, what I would tell you to do is to start a group within the app, which is free. The app's free, groups are free, and then you can register, because right now we've got 6,200 plus stores worldwide in our database. If you want to have events at stores, you can just pick the store that's near you, and we know it's a public place, we know it's a game store, everything's safe. Because we're very concerned about safety, if you're going to have an event for a group and it's a public event that any person can come to, we still require it has to be at a public place. And if you want to choose a store, that's easy. But let's say you're running something at a bar, you can, in the app, if you're either the moderator or the admin for the group, you can go in and say, I want to add a custom location. And then you put in the name of the bar and the address and all that kind of stuff. We get a notification. We verify through Google that, yeah, this address is for this bar or whatever the place is. You might be doing it. You can play in church basements. You can play at restaurants, clubs, wherever you want to play. That's a public place. And then will okay it, and then you can use that as your location, and it's free. So I would tell you to look at the groups and clubs feature within Game 4 and be able to do that. But yeah, the app's been working out really well. It's been growing quite a bit, and I'll be talking about it as well next weekend. Oh, next weekend I'm going to be in Detroit at the Midwest Miniature Expo. So take a look. Just do a Google search for Midwest Miniature Expo. I don't know off the top of my head if they have a website. But yeah, it's their first year, and so I'll be going to that. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll be doing my seminars there, and then I'll also be going at the end of August to Nova Open. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So yeah, I would definitely look into the app if you're interested in trying to find new people to play with in your local area. If you want to start a group or club, that feature's all free, and you can kind of do that stuff. If you want your group or club to have an event that's at a private location, like let's say your house, you can do that too, but it will only it can only be seen as a private event for group members. So that way you're not getting randos showing up at your house, or vice versa. You're trying to lure randos to your house, or whatever the deal is. We don't want that, because we're all about safety, and we don't want our big motto for the entire Game 4 group, the 6 of us that work on it, is let's not get anybody eaten. So we think very heavily about safety. So yeah, that's why we kind of have to make you jump through those hoops for those types of public events. But it's important because it's just important for people's safety. So that's where we're at. Boharg Studios says, Game 4 is great. Made me find 2 cool guys to play relaxed 40K games with already. This is in Berlin, Germany. Cool. Yeah, it's worldwide too. It works. I mean, obviously, if you live someplace where there's like very few people around, it's harder to find an event. But if you live in a bunch of different places, or if you live in places that, there's more people, there's more gamers, you can, and even if you do live in a place that there's like nobody around, you can sometimes be surprised and find somebody in the looking for players section of the app who is looking to find someone else to play with, and they don't live that far away. So if you do get the app and you don't find anybody local near you, go to the looking for players section of the app and post a little thing saying, hey, I want to play this game, that game, whatever. And then eventually, hopefully, somebody will reach out to you and say, hey, I want to play that too, and I live near you, and then you can kind of work from that. Diego Flores says, if I recall correctly, within the rulebook for Kill Team has all the tactics for the factions also. I'm assuming so. I mean, if it's like the Shadow War book, it'll have not just the points and the war gear and all the stuff and all that jazz, but probably also have the tactics and all that jazz. I believe that's what they're saying in the article that we were looking at before on the Warhammer community website. What they're saying about those starter boxes is that they will have special tactics that you can't get anywhere else other than those starter boxes. So that's where you get into the point where you're like, now I got to buy a starter box. Yeah. So that's what they're doing. But the thing is, if you're like, I don't care about those faction cards because I'm just playing to have a good time, then you don't have to go that way, But they've got to have. I can understand where they need to have some sort of hook to try to get you to buy those sometimes, and to give you the extra added benefit. So I mean, besides just the fact that it's like some terrain and it's like the pieces you need, and it's supposed to be a better deal, like the start collecting boxes are. For those of you that don't know, the start collecting boxes, both for Age of Sigmar and for 40K, they are like generally all $85 American, and they are super good deals in comparison. If you go through all the stuff that's in a start collecting box, you add it all up at retail, they're usually anywhere from $125 to sometimes as high as $150, but you're paying $85. So I have a suspicion they've said actually in the article that it's cheaper to buy these new starter boxes for a faction than it is to actually just go and buy all the parts separately. So I get the feeling that they're going down that same start collecting road, because those start collecting boxes have sold for them like crazy as well. So Adam, what was your deal with Typhus? I remembered a comment a while back. I think it's you mean Typhus from 40K? I don't know, he's kind of cool. I've got one painted in the basement. He's part of my 1,500 point Chaos Space Marine army. He was one of those guys that I built and then didn't actually sit on, but he was one of those guys I built and then didn't do anything with for probably 5 years. Then all of a sudden one day I just primed him up and painted him. And it was just one of those, I don't know what, all of a sudden I just got a wild hair. And yeah, he's a lot of fun. GC&T says, is the app worldwide targeted or restricted to the US? Worldwide. Yep, definitely. All over. Useful G says, hello, randos. Yes, that is something that you got to watch out for. Annihilation. I know it's annihilation, but yeah. Adam, what's on your Christmas wish list? I'm terrible with presents. It was just my birthday last week, so yeah, I'm just terrible with presents. I don't really have a Christmas wish list. Yeah, I'm absolutely horrific to buy presents for. I apologize to everybody who has to try. Normally, like when I have my birthday, I'm always like, no presents, please, and because I'm doing fine, thank you. I've got plenty of. Lord knows I don't need any more plastic dudes in the basement because there's lots and lots and lots and lots of them. So yeah, that's been yeah, socks, I guess, probably socks. I like socks. I like to wear wacky socks a lot, so there's that. Not so much in the summer, but definitely in the winter I wear wacky socks. Let's see here. I'm just a bit. This is Raven KS. Oh, it's scrolling again. I'm just a bit disappointed and sad the games does not take the point about created a really deep Inquisition themed kill team, something else than Death Watch. Yeah, I like Inquisition as well. Although I think that maybe it's kind of hard to find models these days because a lot of the models are old metal for Inquisition stuff. I've got a bunch, but they're harder to find. Douglas Hooker says, Last Days Zombie Apocalypse rules have been a great read. I will be playing the game with mostly my Walking Dead minis, which totally makes sense, but has inspired some Survivor purchases from hassle-free games. Yeah, I've got a copy of Last Days. Last Days Zombie Apocalypse is a game written by Ash Barker from the Guerrilla Miniatures Games channel on YouTube, and it's published by Osprey. And so Osprey sent me a copy of it, and I've kind of thumbed through it a bit and everything, and it does the artwork, first of all, is amazing. Like I really love the artwork they did in it. It's really nice. But yeah, I'm definitely looking to see what's going on with that. Oh, Alexander Marquez says that the Adeptus Astartes focus is up. Well, let's see if I can. Did I close that window? Nope. Let's go here. Scroll. Apologize for that. We go here. Faction index. Lies. I'm not seeing it. Let me refresh the page. Nope. Well, maybe they just haven't updated that part yet. No. Maybe it's up in some parts of the world, but it's not up here yet. I'm not seeing it. Wrath and Glory. New experience, the Dark Imperium. Oh yeah, it's the role-playing stuff, right. Well, bummer. I'm not seeing it. Some sort of trickery. Oh, there it is. Haha. Just had to refresh like 5 times. All right, let's see. What have we got going on here? All right, so There's a single category which you'll still be able to represent each chapter with units and war gear you use, the tactics and specialists, blah, blah, blah. If you like Raven Guard, you could focus on scouts and reavers, while an Ultramarines kill team would most likely use Primaris intercessors. Okay. Superhuman resilience, as well as great save and toughness characteristics, Space Marines have a cool rule in Kill Team called transhuman physiology, which allows them to ignore their first flesh wound. After all, what kind of Emperor-forsaken coward lets getting shot bother them? Well, that's a very good point. So, flesh wounds. So that's, I wonder if that's anything like, because in Shadow War there was like, you got, it wasn't like, oh, you got killed and you died. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you got one wound, you took a wound, you're dead. It was there was a little bit more to it than that because you had so few guys. So I'm wondering if either A, they've upped the amount of wounds. So like, in normal 40K, like a Primaris, I think, has 2 wounds, if I remember correctly, and a normal TAC Marine's got 1. So maybe they've upped the number of wounds so that your guys don't die so quickly, or else they've made a new mechanic so that maybe the first time that you get wounded, it turns into a flesh wound, and then the second time you die, or I don't know, but that's kind of interesting. Space Marines do a little bit of everything, making them great for kill team. You can't shoot someone, just charge them and smash them in melee. Your war gear is just as flexible, with all manner of heavy and special weapons available to your troops. Fun. 1,000 chapters. Kill team is the perfect opportunity to build and convert that niche chapter you always wanted to collect, but perhaps didn't want to make a full army of. I've been saying that for an hour and 15 minutes now. That's exactly, they're like, hey, you've always wanted to do this. Well, now you can. From bone-bladed black dragon reavers to a force of guerrilla carcardons. That's not easy to say. Go nuts. Well, sure. All right, so they're saying you can use scouts, tac marines, reavers, and intercessors. That's kind of what they had kind of said in the other thing a while back. So that's cool. So I could definitely then see using, like I said, some of those press fits where you buy like a box and you get 3 of them. Like intercessors, trying to mix some intercessors, some reavers, maybe a tactical marine and maybe a scout. It depends on the points. Like, I don't know how many guys, that's the thing is like with with Shadow War, you could generally have up to 10 guys, but in this, you've got a certain point level, so I don't know, or I don't know how they're going to do it, whether it's based off of people, whether it's based off of point levels, or like power levels like they do in regular 40K, the power levels that a lot of people don't seem to like. That's a good question. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and how many people you can have in a group. And like, if you keep playing in campaign rules, do your groups get bigger like they did in Shadow War up until a point? Or like, what happens when people die? Like, you have to bring a new one in? That's going to be interesting. All things that we don't know yet, sadly. Yes, tactics. We've got some stuff that takes some command points. Marksmanship. And then here's that Fangs of Ulfrich starter that will be, basically, it looks like a bunch of Reavers. Kill Team will be launching with the Fangs of Ulfrich. So it says Kill Team will be launching with this expansion. So I wonder if they're going to... See, okay, now this makes sense. The main box, we know, has Adeptus Mechanicus and Gene Stealer cults. And there were a lot of people that are like, wow, I'm really surprised that the main box didn't come with Space Marines versus Orcs, because that seems to be generally a lot of times the case. Well, they made the main box not come with Space Marines versus Orcs, but I will bet you a moldy donut that at the same time they're going to launch 2, getting started boxes or whatever they're called here. And one will be Space Marines and the other one will be the Orcs that they've already showed off. So that's how you can do it. That makes sense. And then they recommend supplementing them with some intercessors wielding a variety of bolt rifles. Well, who doesn't love a variety of bolt rifles? Stay tuned. We've got loads more. Stay tuned. We've got loads more Kill Team focuses on the way, continuing tomorrow with the Orcs. So I am pretty sure that most likely what's happening is that when the game comes out at the end of the month, most likely, you'll have the big giant honkin' box. You'll be able to buy the book separately, and you'll also be able to buy Space Marines and Orcs, because you got to launch with Space Marines and Orcs, but they decided not to actually launch, but sort of secondary launch with Space Marines and Orcs. That's a clever idea. What do we got going on here? Yeah, this terrain is cool. I've got a bunch of this stuff built and primed, and I just need to find the time to paint it. But I like what they're doing there. It's not too... It's very grungy. I like the grunginess. I find grungy easier to paint, just FYI. So there's that. All right, let me get all my stuff back together again. There we go. Home Muffin says, no Terminators? Probably not. I would bet most likely not. Donald Powell says that Flesh Wound is a Necromunda 2017 mechanic. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Definitely. Let me see here. No Assault Marines. I mean, like Jump Marines and stuff. Yeah, I could see that. Oh, that's kind of a bummer. Well, but see, the thing is Jump Marines would be supremely... Well, but the Reavers can kind of... If they use the Reavers as like the Reavers are used in the normal game, they're not Jump Marines, but they can basically ignore terrain because they've got grappling hooks, I think. But maybe you have to pay for the grappling hooks. That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. What else have we got here? Oh, dang it. scrolled. Someone just said something about Douglas Hooker says Last Days has a bit of a Frostgrave feel campaign wise, but definitely feels more survival than treasure hunting overall. That's a cool idea. Yeah, I don't have any zombie models. I don't think. I probably do somewhere, but then I don't have any painted ones. That's not true. I do have probably maybe like 5 or 6 painted ones, but I don't think I have too many. So I have to look and see what kind of requirements there are for that game. But it's I do, like I said, I do have a copy of it, and I thought the book was amazing. Gaddis Gaming says, I'm just doing a Death Watch Kill team. Hey Gaddis, I'll see you next weekend at the Midwest Miniature Expo in Detroit. You should go take a look. Not you, Gaddis, because you know. But the other people, if you're in the Detroit area, you should go check it out and go to the convention. I will be there. I will be doing my seminars, and I'm looking forward to it. I was going to say I've never been to Detroit, but I was technically there back in early June, mid-June. But I was only in the airport. So it was like you had to stop there and then go someplace else. So that was the first time I've been in Detroit, and this will be the second time. So it's amazing. Let me see here. As a Blood Angels player, I declare the absence of jump pack heresy. Well, like I said, you could go with Reavers, I think. If they've got the grappling hooks like they do in the normal book, you could use that. It's kind of like jump packs, sort of. Martin says, I'm hoping to finally be able to use my Plague Marines in something. Well, they did show in that list of all the different faction focuses that they'll be doing, the Death Guard are near the bottom. So, you should be able to use them. What else have we got here? Let me see here. Tobias asks, looking to get back into the hobby, have you had any problems with buying stuff off eBay? Not particularly. Every once in a while you'll get something that comes through that's maybe kind of gotten a little, not broken, but like knocked apart. Like it's not like there's a part that if it's a metal model, sometimes like the arms will come off because it's got shook around by traveling across the world or whatever. But then you just glue them back and it's fine. I'm never pretty much ever going to use a model if it's been put together and painted. I'm never ever going to use it that way because it's usually not painted very well, or at least not to my standards. Or even if it's like painted well, I'm like, well, it doesn't look like my other stuff, and so I want it to look like my other stuff. So I'm going to strip it and then repaint it. And in the stripping process, the arms and stuff are going to fall off. The glue seals are going to break up. So it's not that big of a deal. But yeah. So otherwise, I don't think I've ever. I'm going to knock on wood here. I don't think I've ever been like cheated or like, hey, I didn't get this or anything like that. And there are plenty of things in the system that allow you to report that, get your money back from PayPal, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a bad plan. Like every once in a while you'll get like, you'll see someone and they'll post a picture of a box of like, let's say some sort of 40K or Age of Sigmar thing, and then you don't get the box, you just get like all the sprues like in a padded envelope, which I think they're doing to help save on shipping costs or whatever, but sometimes that's a little bit of a bummer. Like if you wanted the box in art, I guess, but you can probably find it online. Yeah. Let me see here. Martin says, I use cheaper craft store paint for terrain. Yeah, I do frequently as well. With the terrain that I'm seeing in here, I don't know if I would do that as much. Maybe. That's a good question. Maybe so like for dry brushing, I could see using that cheaper stuff. But the dry brushing uses so little paint that I don't even know if I'd bother. Yeah, that's a good question. I hope that there is a chainsword and bolt pistol option. I want to run Black Templars. Yeah, I would assume that they're going to give you options kind of like they do in 40K, like in the normal book, where they're like, hey, you get like this gun and this gun, but if you swap out this gun with this, then you can do that. And sometimes they will, and they'll make you pay more points. I'm assuming it's going to have the same sort of point structure that like the normal codex books do, where you've got like, here's all the information in the data slate or whatever, and then in the back is, well, here's a section about the points for these, and these cost 0 points, and these cost 2 points, and that kind of stuff. The reason they've separated it in comparison, still got this thing going on. The reason they separated it in comparison to the old way they used to do it, where in the like data sheet they used to tell you, oh, well, if you want to upgrade to this, it's 5 points, is because then now they can update those points, and then you can just use that instead of having it directly in your face. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they've kind of compartmentalized the points away from the other stuff. Also, the fact that they're doing now the power levels, Like the power levels at that point, the power level is the power level, and you're good. And I don't know that they've done much updates in power levels. They've updated points here and there, and so kind of compartmentalizing between the two makes sense. That's why they don't list the points for add-ons and stuff like that in the data sheets anymore. They're always in the back of the book. So I would guess they'll do the same type of thing for this, but I don't know. What else? Uncle, will you ever come to Italy? Hope to meet you someday. Maybe, I don't know. I've never been outside of America. I don't have a passport. There's a lot of America that I have not seen. So eventually, some point, I would like to go over to, at the very least, like England. My wife would like to go back to England. She was there for college for like a semester or maybe a couple of weeks. I don't remember. In college, she was there for a while. And so we would sometimes like to go back. And then if we went there, we would probably make a stop in Nottingham, and I would probably go to the big fancy Warhammer shenanigans and check that out. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But I would have to get a passport first, which, yeah, something I should probably do anyway. My wife would, I think, have to get hers renewed. I don't know how long they last. It's a good question. What else have we got here? What time is it? Okay, it's about 10:30. Query. Uncle Adam, I'm new to the hobby, and I just got my Soul Wars box. How do you handle all seams in the models, especially along some of those finer details? These are the first models I'm building. I need to make a video about this kind of stuff because it's a very good question. So normally the seams, what you do is, and I don't have an X-Acto blade or anything around here, but normally what you do is you take an X-Acto blade. So, you know, that metal handle, long kind of metal, and you screw on, and then there's the little pointy sort of triangular bit. Hang on, let me... X-Acto blade. So, well, let's say X-Acto knife kit. Why don't we do that instead so you can see what this looks like? Am I going to get a picture here or no? Well, it's not terrible. All right, so this is what an X-Acto... This is a whole kit of many different things. But this long, skinny thing here, this is an X-Acto blade. You know, so you've got this handle, this is the metal thing here, and then it's this sort of triangular-shaped blade. And what you're doing when you're trying to get those seams, it's called mold lines, off of plastic miniatures, is you want to take, if this is the blade, you know, or what, I don't know. Basically, you're just rubbing the sharp part of the blade. You're not shaving it along, trying to shave it off. You're straight down, and you're kind of rubbing it. So you're basically scraping the mold lines off. So you find that little skinny, tiny little mold line. And on Soul Wars, there's not a lot because it's brand new molds, and there shouldn't be a lot, but there are some. You basically just sort of scrape along those kind of, you know, along that part and try to get rid of that mold line, scrape it flat, go perpendicular to the surface and scrape it along. And then what I like to do, and this is my own special trick, is that once I've done that, I frequently take my fingernail and I just rub it along there too. And it's softer than the metal, but it helps to just kind of smooth things out, even just a little bit more. Just rub. And, you know, they try to make it so that those mold lines don't go across important pieces of detail, and they're generally pretty good about it. Some companies are better than others, but sometimes there's times when you have to just get in there real fiddly. You can also use an emery board. They make special emery boards just for modeling that you can get at the hobby store, and an emery board is like a little piece of sandpaper it's kind of like the ones you use for your nails, but they're like a foam padded thing, and they come in different grits, from everything from like medium or even coarse all the way up to extra fine. So you can sometimes use that to help smooth things along too. Like I said, I'm planning on, at some point I want to start making a series of videos. I want to make a series of videos where I talk about just straight up, like complete, from like you don't know anything, kind of beginner to like how to cut the things off of the sprues, how to, you know, get rid of mold lines, how to glue, you know, just stuff that like many of us know because we've been doing it, but there's a lot of people new coming in the hobby that are coming from like bare bones, never even put together an airplane model before or whatever, and that's fine, and that's what I want to help people get into the hobby, and so I want to make that sort of series. That's kind of coming. So yes, I'm being told that passports are typically good 10 years, so most likely my wife's is not good anymore. Pro Chaos says, "Am I too late for the discussion about Kill Team?" Well, we've been talking about it a lot, but I think it's yeah. You would want to maybe even go back and start later or something like that. But you're welcome to be here now. There will probably be some more talk about Kill Team, but there was a good long amount of talk about Kill Team. Charlie Jackson says, "I use the back of the blade to clean off the mold lines." I've heard about that too. I think Games Workshop makes a special tool for it, which is basically almost like the back of the blade. I have a tendency to use the sharp part of the blade, but you can also use the back of the blade to scrape. It depends on how you want to do it. And I know there's even like a chemical that's kind of like a glue, but it will also get rid of mold lines sometimes. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Like it actually just eats the mold lines. And I'm like, well, then why doesn't it eat detail? So I don't know, but I've heard about that too. Martin says there are gap issues, though, with the Soul Wars set. See, I didn't find that. And I think that sometimes, and I'm going to be making a video about this too, I think the trick is that some people try because they're push-fit models, a lot of people will try to glue them even though they're push-fit models. And that's where the problem comes in. Here's a little preliminary about this whole thing. Because they're computer designed, the push-fit portion of the model, which is basically like when you're pushing the two pieces together, you've got like a cylinder or like a post going into an empty cylinder, right? And that's how the push fit kind of works together. You push those two pieces together, and then it's very difficult to get them apart. They shouldn't just fall apart. Those are designed to be fit so tightly that if you tried to put some glue on there for that push fit and then push them together, it's almost like trying to push a piston into a chamber, but there's like oil in there, and it's the way shock absorbers work. You take this piston into this chamber and you put oil in there, and then now that it can never fully go all the way down because it's got the pressure of the oil. Putting the glue in there can actually make it so push fit models don't glue together properly. They don't close properly because you've added in a little tiny bit of glue, which now makes it so that cylinder and that chamber don't go all the way in. So there's a trick that I've kind of learned to doing that, because I am also one of those types of guys who still likes to glue push-fit models. But that's the issue, and so I'm going to make a video about that. It's basically, it's because they've been made to such high tolerances now that even adding just a touch of glue to that post when you stick it into the cylinder now makes it so the post can't completely fit into the cylinder anymore because there's liquid in there. So that's kind of troublesome. Adron says, "I hate mold lines. Probably I spend a lot more time than most people removing them." I also spend a lot of time removing mold lines. And I think it's important because they do make the models, I think, look worse by a good deal when you don't get rid of the mold lines. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying personally for me, I'm a big fan of getting rid of the mold lines. Yeah. Torch says, "I also use the back of the blade." Okay, it makes sense. GW mold line removal tool, pretty solid tool, very unlikely to wear off, not as good with pewter models. No, I can see that. Pewter models are very hard to get the mold lines off, and very frequently the mold lines are a lot more pronounced because pewter models are not made with steel molds, which have super high tolerances. They're generally made with like rubber, like vulcanized rubber molds. So, yeah. Shane Henton says, "I'm in the middle of building my first box of models, and as a total beginner, I approve of the GW mold line remover. There's no real risk of gouging anything." I should maybe look into that, because I can't tell you how many times I have cut either my fingernail or right into my finger using an X-Acto blade. I should take a look at that. Error Zero says, "Glue on the post, not in the cylinder." Well, yeah, definitely not in the cylinder, because then you end up filling the cylinder, and even then, I still wouldn't even put much glue on the post. What I've been doing, honestly, is I clip a little bit of the post. I take my little flat clippers, and I clip off just a little bit of the front of the post, and then I put a little bit of glue on there, and then there's room for the glue to go inside the cylinder. That's kind of the trick. Definitely. Randall says, "I would love to see a behind-the-scenes production video from Games Workshop." I've kicked around the idea recently of doing, like, some channels, like big fancy channels with millions and millions of subscribers. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, not last night, but the night before, like Friday night into Saturday, the channel hit 90,000 subscribers, which is awesome. I mean, it's been going really, really great lately. It's been really awesome. And I was going to mention that before, and I forgot to mention it. Yeah, but I want to thank everybody for. I mean, 90,000 subscribers is crazy, and it's just a little bit longer until 100,000, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, I just want to thank everybody again about that. Subscriber. The word subscriber reminded me of that. Yeah. So anyway, behind the scenes. So a lot of big channels will have like a secondary channel and talk about other stuff that's not their normal videos. Like I know that like the slow-mo guys, they've got the slow-mo guys, and they've got like a behind the scenes channel where it's like almost like vlogs and them like talking about getting things set up and all that kind of junk, and that's cool. I wouldn't want to split my channel that way, I don't think. But I have kicked around the idea of using the new Instagram TV as maybe the behind the scenes kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because it's pretty much phone based. Like you can film it fancy and then put it into your phone, but it's sort of a pain in the rear. So I'm thinking about that. I don't know how many of you are using Instagram TV, but I might think about doing some behind the scenes stuff using Instagram TV and going from there. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's just something I'm thinking about, doing a little bit behind the scenes stuff. For a while, a year ago, whatever, I used to use Snapchat for that a little bit, but Snapchat's just weird. I'm too old to use Snapchat, I think. So yeah, I think I'm thinking about using Instagram TV for that, because you can use longer form. Like Snapchat was like super short videos generally. Instagram TV can go, I think, up to 10 minutes. And if you've got like lots and lots of followers, it can go to an hour. So 10 minutes is still fine for that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm kind of thinking about it right now. There you go. Douglas Hooker says, I thought the mold lines were the seams of clothing. Wish I had never been told otherwise. Well, they sometimes are if the person is clothed, but if they're a space marine, they're not wearing clothes. So, you know what I mean? Or if they're a scary monster or whatever, then they're not probably wearing clothes. Sometimes scary monsters don't wear clothes, which makes them scarier. That's maybe a personal issue, but whatever. Joe says, I like to use the sharp side of an X-Acto specifically because I can scrape or shave the model with it. Yeah, sometimes you need to shave instead of scrape, but you do have to be careful because sometimes you can shave a little bit too much and then you put a weird divot in your model. So that is a difficult one. But there are times, like especially with metal models, where it's just way easier to try to more shave along the edge because you're just trying to get rid of that flash. So mold lines are very thin, small little bumps that are basically where the mold goes together. Flash is when the mold doesn't fit as well together as it should, and the mold line actually starts to like leak out and it becomes like a flat piece that comes out. You see it a lot on resin models. You see it some on metal models. You very rarely see it in plastic models, but every once in a while. If it's a kit that's been around for a long time and has been produced millions, well, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of times, over time that steel mold can start to wear down from use. And then you get flash, even on plastic models. But that's the difference between flash and mold lines. Mold lines, even plastic models generally have mold lines. Flash is when it actually leaks in between the two pieces of the mold coming together. And it's like I said, it's more likely on metal models than resin, especially resin. Let's see here. A bunch of congratulations on the 90,000. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let me see here. More people talking about the mold line scraper from GW. I mean, I've seen pictures of it. I've never used it. I should look into it, I guess. What else have we got there? A bunch of people saying they've been convinced to get the mold line remover. Oh, okay. That's cool. Randall says, Adam, I like the Instagram thing. Good idea. Yeah, I could see that. Oop, what's going on? Oh, I got a kitty rubbing on my leg. What else have we got here? The constant delay in an orc codex means I now have a lot of Age of Sigmar skeletons to build and paint. Yeah, oh, hey, Clayton. I didn't see there. Yeah, gosh. I know that's been, I don't know why the Orc Codex has been taking so long. I wonder if they've been tweaking it, or if it's just that was in their schedule and it's just, I don't know. But I know it's one of the last ones, I believe, to be updated to 8th edition. That all being said, I'm a big fan of skeletons, so I'm not thinking that you're making a bad choice. Skeletons are pretty cool. So yeah. C4 Darkmane says, don't people do sub channels to maintain the correct algorithm on their main channel and maximize profits or something like that? I didn't know where you were going at first, but now I figured it out. Sub channels as opposed to subscriber channels, right? I don't know. Like I think that, and this is going to be getting into a little bit of like my seminar mode. I really don't think that having a secondary channel is a very good idea, especially when you're small. Like when you're like, you're the slow-mo guys and you're 10 million subscribers, then yeah, having your stuff that's not completely directly related to seeing things explode in slow motion, having that stuff on a separate channel totally makes sense. When you're small, like I am, in the grand scheme of things amongst, YouTube and whatnot, taking that and saying, oh, I'm going to have a second channel where I do this other stuff. Like if I was going to have a second channel where I was just doing the live shows, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Like, because then you're splitting your message, you're splitting your stuff. If I was going to make a channel, now there are people out there who have like, there's a guy I kind of follow on YouTube. His name is Tim Schmoyer. That sounds right. And he talks about video production and YouTube channel like creation and all that kind of stuff. And he's like his day job is basically like making YouTube videos, but he talks about how to make YouTube videos and behind the scenes kind of stuff and all that jazz. But then he's also got like a vlog that he does with his family because he's got a bunch of kids and a wife and all that stuff. And those are two separate channels, and that totally makes sense because they're very separate subject matters. From the Wargamers Consortium people that I'm a member of the Wargamers Consortium, the main guy who runs the Wargamers Consortium, his name is Chung, and Chung has recently not really been doing any videos about wargaming, but he's gotten really into aquariums, like fish aquariums. So he started a separate channel about that, and he's been putting most of his effort in doing into that. If he would have started putting all of his fish aquarium stuff into the Wargamers Consortium channel, that would have not made any sense. So when it's a complete different subject, I totally understand making two, but having two, like I don't think having two channels for Tabletop Minions would make sense to me. Having a completely separate kind of thing like Instagram TV and saying this is where the behind the scenes stuff goes, that kind of makes sense to me, because it's not like none of those videos are going to be huge because the only people who are going to really care about those videos are the people who are maybe are big, who really like the channel and are big fans and stuff, and that's great. But your average person who's like looking for information about Kill Team or looking for information about how to scrape off mold lines or whatever, those people are not going to be interested in that subject matter. So keeping them separate in that situation makes sense to me. I think it completely depends, which it depends. Can we see the kitty? Sorry, I missed that. And kitty is going on. I wouldn't have been able to pick up kitty here anyway. I don't even know which one it was. It was anyone but Diesel, because I could tell by the tail. Diesel's tail is very fluffy, and the rest of them are more like domestic short hair. So they're got a much more like a domestic short hair kitty tail. His is fluffy. Anyway, Kai Ebenrai, which I probably mispronounced, and I apologize. I've found the GW mold line remover is awesome because I can shave as well as clean mold lines in a controlled fashion. As an old school gamer, I wish it was available when I started 22 years ago. That's interesting because it looks like a very simple thing to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I really like it." Because it looks just like it's like a stick, kind of a little bit. I should maybe get one because that wouldn't be a bad idea, and then I could talk about it. John Bork says that flash is created when the injection molder is running at a slightly higher pressure than is ideal, which makes sense because the extra material is squeezing out in between the two pieces of the mold. This can be caused by anything from moisture in the hopper to just the heat of the casting mold. Somebody here sounds like they know a lot more about molding than I do, which is good. VJ Morph, Adam, I'm looking at a rough itinerary for my U.S. trip next year. I would be right at guessing that 7th, 8th, and 9th June for TMX. Let me get back to you on that. I need to reach out to the lady from the university and make sure that there's not something else booked at that time, but I'm looking at usually the first or second weekend of June. So I will try to reach out to that person at the university tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday? Yeah. So I'll try to reach out to them tomorrow and try to get some date nailed down. And then, because I do want people to know about it as soon as possible if they're interested. So Kelly asks, Adam, did you use the frosted glass? I did. No issues, but didn't seem any better or worse than anything else. Cheaper than dull coat, I suppose. Okay, I haven't got a chance to try mine yet. So I'm like, I've got a bunch of stuff that's like primed but not painted, and I've been in build mode a lot lately. I haven't been in finishing paint mode lately. So wow, yeah, it's interesting. Like, if it works about as well as what dull coat does, but it costs far less because it's in a huge can, then that's at least right there is a benefit. But I do definitely want to test it out. What I need to do, like I've said in the past, is I need to get a bunch of models, like some cheap models, like some, I don't know, press fit Space Marines from like 5th edition, like Assault on Black Reach, which I think I've got somewhere in the basement already. Prime them all, I don't know, blue, and then either spray gloss over them or dip them maybe in like Army Painter so that they're all the same amount of glossiness, and then try a bunch of different spray varnishes and see which one I like best. That would be a pretty in-depth video, but I bet people would dig it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would probably get good views, at least for a while. So I should definitely try that. Chris says, if you did a bat rep channel, that would make sense. Ooh, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm very good at bat reps. That first one for that's I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, some people liked it, and I'm glad for that. But I just don't know that because I'm not like strategically minded. I think a lot of people that are very interested in battle reports are people who are looking for tactics and techniques and strategies and stuff, and I don't have any of that in my head. So I've got to try to figure out. I mean, I think that I enjoyed the bat rep that I did with Matt because we were both having a good time, and Sam was there and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. There was personality, and that's probably what I'm going to probably, focus on. But man, if people are coming and going, yeah, I really want to learn how to play my, Adeptus Mechanicus in a tournament list, I am not the guy. I would definitely tell you to go to nearly anyone else. I still personally think that my one of my favorites is still Tabletop Tactics. I think they do some of the better battle reports out there, and I enjoy specifically I think the guys are funny. I think that Lawrence and Bone and Beard and those guys are just funny. So, yeah. Nick Davidson says, I'm hoping the Orcs Codex is taking so long because they're bringing back all the clans. Well, that'd be pretty cool. I could see that. Kraken Slayer says, what's TMX? TMX is the Tabletop Minions Expo. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny little convention that I've run the last 2 years, usually in the beginning of June, here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. And it is an expo and not a convention in that it's not a tournament. There's no real competitive kind of play or anything like that. It's people who come and run events to teach people like how to play specific games. Like, you don't come and bring your army because you're going to play in the 40K tournament. You come and play games like Gaslands because you haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, or play games like Dark Age or like Wreck Age or Flames of War, and it's all people showing you. Let's see, this year we had Gaslands, Wreck Age, Broken Contract, Shattered Crown. There was a cool Lego game, like Lego Star Wars game that a guy named Scott set up that was very cool. There was Bushido. There was Walking Dead. Like the guys from Chicago, the Chicago Wargame or Skirmish Wargamers ran a bunch of stuff, including Walking Dead and a couple other games. There was a lot of different stuff that was going on. That it's just a cool place to come and learn about some new games, even some like homebrew rules, like stuff that isn't published, stuff that's something. There was also Silent Death, which is the space combat game, a lot of fun. So definitely. Let me see here. What else? We need more channels that do casual bat reps. Well, I'm working on it slowly, very slowly. CD Darkmane says, I think I missed the bat rep. I'll track it down. It's about a month ago or so, and it's Wreck Age Battle Report. It's part 1. There is a part 2, which is coming. Johannes says, I've been burned out by bat reps because so many of them are unbalanced and unfun to watch. Yeah, I get you there. Douglas Hooker says, not at all looking for tactics. It was just fun to see you all enjoying some appalling dice rolling. There was some appalling dice rolling. That is true. There was also rye whiskey, so there was that as well. John says, I like bat reps because I like watching people have fun, good feels while I'm working on painting or terrain building. Well, then that's what we're looking at. That's what the thing. Cordial says, agreed, tabletop tactics, bat reps rock. Yeah, those guys are really nice. I've met Lawrence at LVO last year. He's a super nice guy. My beard was there, but I don't think I ever met him. He was on the phone. Like, he was talking to somebody on the phone. I don't know if they might have been making dinner plans. But I had a conversation with Lawrence, and he's a good guy. Bone was not there. I want to meet Bone eventually at some point too, because he makes me laugh just so much, definitely. C. Medalis, I think I'm pronouncing that close. I think there is a place, parenthetical need, question mark, for bat reps with personality and show the narrative of the game being played. Story mode bat reps, if you will. Well, I mean, story mode is one thing. I think there's also something to be said, and I've had people tell me about this too, is like, I've had people tell me, well, the reason I don't watch 40K bat reps is because I don't know how to play 40K, and most bat reps assume you know how to play 40K. And it doesn't have to be 40K. It could be Age of Sigmar. It could be Flames of War. It could be Bolt Action. So there's a difference. Like, I know Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games, he will do bat reps, but he'll also do Let's Plays or something like that. I think he calls them Let's Plays. And in Let's Plays, he teaches like the rules as so it takes longer to get going because he's teaching you the rules. But if you want to learn a game, that's, I think, the way to go. People who are interested in playing a specific game that they haven't played before, or they're interested in maybe thinking about buying it, but they want to see if it's cool, and see if the rule system is to their liking, can see videos like that. The one we did with Wreck Age was very much like that because Matt here was super. He's run that demo a billion times, literally a billion times before. So it was very quick and simple for him to go through and run everything through and everything, and it worked out real well that way. And I think it gives you that one and the second one, they give you the second one's, again, like I said, not out yet. They give you a good indicator, at least, or an idea of what the mechanics are like for Wreck Age, and I would like to do those types of games. The trick is then if you like if you're going to do, let's say Kill Team. When Kill Team comes out, you wouldn't want every bat rep to teach you how to play Kill Team, because the people who've watched the first 5, let's say, would be like, yeah, no, I know, I don't need to go through this. So you could either, I guess, do a pachow and just be like, here's how to play, go back and watch that one first if this is the first one you've come across, and then maybe that's the way to go. So I don't know, we'll see. Still trying to figure out the whole battle report thing. Yeah, there's that. The Noob Painter says, Gaslands, who would want to play that? We had a really good time. The Noob Painter came from Texas to TMX back in June and ran a great couple of games of Gaslands, and I got to play on Sunday, actually, with a couple of the Game 4 guys, actually, and it was a lot of fun, and I did not win. One of the Game 4 guys did win. Matt won, but the rest of us all basically crashed into each other and started on fire. So, as it is supposed to happen. But yeah, definitely interesting. So, Jonathan Wrigley says, hey Adam, did you see the Miniac's latest video on NMM? No, I didn't. We've talked about it though. I saw it go by in my my subscription thing. I saw the thumbnail, but then people have said that he was wearing a Pachow shirt, so that's fun. I got to go back and watch it. What else have we got? Jesse Daniels is Drop Fleet and Drop Zone at TMX. Yep, that was also the case. Jesse Daniel was there running Drop Fleet Commander and Drop Zone Commander by what used to be Hawk Wargames, but is now somebody else. TTM? I forget what it's called. TT Tactics? TT whatever. Somebody else bought it, and luckily is keeping that game alive, because it's from what I understand, it's a cool game. So I played Drop Fleet? Yeah, I played Drop Fleet Commander 2 years ago, I think, at Valhalla. It was not quite out in stores yet, but one of the guys who came over from England to Valhalla, he was friends with some of the guys from the company, or friends with some of the demo team guys from the company, one of the two, and so he brought a copy, and he had the ships all painted up and stuff, and we played that, and it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting kind of ship combat sort of game. It reminded me a bit of like submarine combat, because like the more wacky stuff you did with your ship, maneuvers would make it, you would give off more like basically like radio static, which made it a lot more easy for other people to target you. Whereas if you just sat there very quietly and didn't do anything, it became much more difficult for them to kind of target you and see you because you weren't giving off a big, like, it's kind of like a heat-seeking missile. If you don't have any heat, then the heat-seeking missile can't heat-seek you or whatever. Yeah. Johannes says most channels that do bat reps do 40k ones, but not enough for other systems. Luckily, Miranda does great War Machine / Hordes bat reps. She does very good ones. She and her husband create some really great looking bat reps, and they take them a long time though. That's the trick. As far as battle reports are concerned, the reason why a lot of channels focus on 40k is because a lot of times those channels, that's like their entire focus. Like, well, I was going to say Tabletop Tactics, that's their entire focus, but they also have been doing some role-playing stuff lately too, so that's cool. But you look at somebody like, who's that guy? Winter's SEO. He predominantly just does 40k, but I think that's just because that's just the game he plays. Like, he's not out there to do all the different types of games because he just plays one game and that's what he's interested in. So, that makes sense. The other trick is that 40k battle reports seem to be the ones that bring in the views. A couple years back, maybe not a couple of years, but at least a year back, but maybe a couple of years back, Mini Wargaming basically just straight up said, we're going to stop doing any other battle reports other than like Games Workshop. They stopped doing War Machine and Hordes. They stopped doing X-Wing. Because they're like, we're creating these battle reports, and the only ones that ever get watched are like the 40k ones, and to some lesser degree the Age of Sigmar ones. So they just were like, it's not in our wheel. There's no reason for us to do them because they're a business and they've got, it makes sense. They've sort of kind of turned around on that a little bit, but yeah, and it makes sense. One of the 40k battle reports get watched. Now, what's going to be interesting to see is, because a bunch of people started doing battle reports on Shadow War when it came out, and I think there have even been battle reports that have been coming out for Necromunda. What will be very interesting to see is if Kill Team A brings that, which I think it will, and whether they get as popular or nearly even as popular as 40k. They'll be shorter. They'll be less, because a lot of times a battle report for 40k can go 2 hours, 3 hours. So seeing some battle reports that take less than an hour, that are basically Kill Team or whatever, I could see those bringing a lot of viewers in and being popular. But yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Someone's saying Winter SEO does good bat reps, and the guy who runs them always puts a nice amount of role playing in, which is quite satisfying and not obnoxious in the slightest. Yeah, he does a lot of fluff behind them to some degree, as he's getting ready and everything like that, and talks about them. Yeah. Torch says, so is Gaslands great? I don't know if I want to play it or just build the cars. Gaslands is spectacular. Gaslands is a really super good game, I think. Definitely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's amazing how Osprey, because Osprey was never really much of a game company until relatively recently, and now they've come up with a lot of different stuff, but some of them have been really super good. People really like Frostgrave, people really like Gaslands. I'm hearing good things about the Last Days, so I think it's going to be kind of cool to have. And they're reaching out to so another guy that I know, his name is Tim, who used to work for Cool Mini or Not, and I used to know him when he lived in the Wisconsin area before he moved down to Atlanta, and now he's doing his own thing, and he's writing a game about Vikings for Osprey. And so there's just a lot of they're hitting a lot of different people and kind of going pretty well on that, which I'm pretty cool. But Gaslands, if you want to just build a bunch of Matchbox cars and paint them up and put little guns on them and have fun with that, it's not only is it fun to do that and cheap, it's also a super fun game. So definitely. Let me see. Adam, while I remember, I want to let you know that I really dig those Night Haunt minis you painted up recently. Great work. Well, thank you. Yeah, they turned out pretty well. And they were very fast for me to paint because I basically just, like I said, I primed them black and then I dusted them, primed them from above with white, got some around the bottom of their, like where the ghostly junk was coming up out of the base. I sprayed around there a little bit too. And then it was a lot of like glazes and washes, some detail, like detailed, like their weapons are metallic, so I'm painting that and then putting washes over it. I want to make them look rusty, that kind of stuff. But the liquid green stuff texturing on their cloaks was what I think makes them stand out better than your average, just because I didn't want them to look completely green and ghostly like some people paint them, just because it's a personal preference. I like them better to look like, I think, a ghost that doesn't look like a ghost. Like if you see a ghost and it's all floaty and transparent, you're like, okay, that's cool. But if you see something that is a ghost but looks real, looks like solid, that to me seems scarier. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I still wanted to have that sort of ghostly, real light green stuff coming up out of the ground and then transitioning. And I think they worked out kind of fun. So I'm looking forward to doing the other ones too. Let me see. We are basically at 11 o'clock. And it means it's time for me to shut her down and for you guys to either keep on hobbying or go on with the rest of your day, or I'm hoping you keep on hobbying. Maybe listen to a past episode or listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something that you enjoy, music. Maybe you turn on, television. I can't watch television while I'm painting. Netflix or anything, can't do it because I end up just watching and then my brush dries out. But nonetheless, again, I want to thank everybody for being here today on the broadcast. I want to thank everybody again for 90,000 subscriptions this weekend. I am humbled and I really appreciate it. It's been a crazy year and I've been really happy about it. So I'll be back in 2 weeks with the live show again. And I will talk about probably my adventures in Detroit and other things. Let's see, 2 weeks is the 2 weeks, I think, takes us to the 22nd. So it'll be right after right before pre-sale, right after pre-sale goes on for Kill Team, according to the video that they put on the website. So there'll maybe be some more things to talk about Kill Team. We'll see how it goes, but we'll talk about anything that we want to talk about as well. Other games, mold scraping, that kind of stuff, moldy donuts, whatever. But yeah, so again, thanks again for coming to watch and hang out, and I hope that you have a really good rest of your day and keep hobbying, and thanks for watching.